topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Churchill said, "Those who fail to learn from history are condemned to repeat it." Kevin Hallinan believes that certainly applies to business. Welcome to Winning Business Radio, here at W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. And now, your host, Kevin Hallinan.
Thanks, everyone, for joining in again today. I am Kevin Hallinan, and welcome back to Winning Business TV and Radio on W4CY.com. We are streaming live on Talk4TV.com, and of course, we're on Facebook Live. That's at Winning Business Radio, and we're available in podcast after the live show wherever you listen and watch your podcasts. That's YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple. Again, everywhere you go, we're there. The mission of Winning Business Radio and TV, as regular viewers and listeners know, is to offer insights and advice, really to help people avoid the mistakes of others, right? To learn best practices. Those are the how-tos, the what-tos, the what-not-tos, to be challenged and hopefully to be inspired by the successes of others. Who are those others? They're consultants, they're coaches, they're advisors, authors, founders, owners, entrepreneurs, people with expertise. But, you know, virtually every successful person I've ever talked to has had some form of failure in their lives and careers. So I say it every week, while we all have to get our knees skinned once in a while, I'm driven to keep those scrapes from needing major surgery. Let's endeavor to learn from history so we don't repeat it. I've spent the better part of my career equipping businesses to grow, from solopreneurs to small and medium-sized companies, all the way up to the Fortune 50. I've seen some of those companies win, and to varying degrees, I've seen some fail. I've had the opportunity to rub elbows with some of the highest performing people around and with some who probably should have found other professions. In my own businesses, I've had lots of success, but some failures as well. And I like to think I've learned a lot from those experiences. So you're going to hear from me, my opinions and insights, but because anybody who knows me, Jack, will tell you I have sometimes a hard time keeping quiet. But more importantly, you're going to hear from experts. Those consultants, coaches, advisors, authors, founders, owners, and entrepreneurs. And today, my guest is Jack Bogard, founder and owner of Sanford Sound in Sanford, Maine. I know Jack through my partnership with MEA, that's the Mobile Electronics Association. I'm their, quick plug, official sales training partner, and Jack's a nationally recognized retailer. Here's his bio. Jack Bogard started his business 30 years ago, specializing in custom audio sales and installations for cars, trucks, boats, motorcycles, ATVs, including LED lighting, remote starters, and radar detectors. Since then, Jack has grown the business to become a CompuStar Top Gun winner and a top 12 mobile electronics retailer of the year. He's always been an entrepreneur at heart and has started and run several businesses throughout his career, and we're going to hear about those. While running Sanford Sound, Jack was also a firefighter, having recently retired as a lieutenant after 25 years of service. He's happily married to Christine. They have 2 adult children, Ashley and Alyssa, a grandson, Maxon, who's 10, and a granddaughter, Parker, who's 6, and that's what it's really all about. Jack and Christine are, as he says, huge parrot heads who love NASCAR, camping, in the summertime, of course, and spending time on the beach, and they love to travel. He's looking forward to retiring in a few years to enjoy more rum punches on a tropical beach somewhere. Jack, welcome to Winning Business Radio. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure. So let's start with, again, I joked, but it's important. I mean, it's true. Tell us about your family. Start with your wife, Christine.
Well, Christine's my wife. We've been married we've been together for 26 years. We've been married for the last 6. We had a really long engagement.
Yeah.
She's great. She's a financial advisor for Fidelity and a company called Charter Oak Capital Management. Mm-hmm. She is the mother of my 2 children, Ashley and Alyssa. They are my stepchildren, I should say, but I've been in their life since they were 5 and 11. Yeah. So they call me dad. I am dad for the most part. So, 2 great grandkids, Maxon with Ashley and Ryan, and I have Parker with Alyssa and Trevor, and just great. And Christine's my heart and soul. She's my she's my hero. So.
That's awesome. And just a little bit about Maxon and Parker. What do they like to do?
Maxon is a very avid sports guy. His father is a PGA golf pro.
Oh, wow.
And is an avid golfer. And because of that, he works well with Maxon. He plays basketball. He plays football, any kind of contact sports. He can actually drive and putt very, very well for a kid of 10.
Wow.
It's quite amazing.
Wow.
So he's a really good kid, and he's very smart academically, does very, very well in school. They live about an hour from us down in Hampton, New Hampshire. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Tell us about your background. You grew up in Michigan.
Yeah, I was born and raised in a little town called Saugatuck, Michigan. It's right on the West Coast, about an hour and a half outside of Chicago. I was born into a family of restaurateurs. My mother and father owned and ran restaurants and nightclubs my entire life. So I grew up in that industry. I can remember as a young 7 and 8 year old boy washing dishes in the restaurants with my mom and dad. I unfortunately lost my father when I was very young. I was 9. He passed away and left the business to my mother. And I slowly worked my way up through the ranks of the restaurant, going from a dishwasher to a prep cook, to a cook, to a busboy, to a bartender. I did some work on the door, and went from the restaurant side of it into the nightclub side of it. And we had your atypical 80s nightclub back in the day with your crazy wild hair metal bands. And you could say I grew up extremely fast and in a different world.
I would think so.
So, but Saugatuck was great. It was right on Lake Michigan. I grew up in the boating industry. There's lots of boats out there. I worked a lot. I didn't actually have a boat, but we had a ton of friends that had boats, and I grew up on those boats. The boats out there in the Midwest are a little different than the boats out here. They're more like the boats that you would see in South Beach, Florida, and Miami. The big fast cigarette boats and the fountain, the race boats, and I grew up going extremely fast on the water, and I have a passion for that to this day. So my best friend Jim back home, his family was stock car drivers, so I grew up with them in the racing world, spending the whole week working on the race car and getting it ready for the weekends, and so I like any of those fast sports like that. So,
how does Christine feel about it?
She is not a fan. Christine is more laid back. She's more of the, like you said in my intro, the parrot head, the sit back on the beach and drink a rum punch and relax. Which as they get older,
for sure,
I'm getting more apt to that. But she is not one to like to go fast. She gets scared very well. I've got a Camaro now that is well over 600 horsepower, and she does not enjoy riding with me in that car because I do like to live on the edge a little bit with that. So,
how about a snow machine? You like going fast on a snow machine?
No, not really. No, she doesn't like any of that kind of stuff, to be honest with you. She does snowmobile. We have a friend that has a camp up in Rangeley, Maine, and we'll go up there on weekends. We do that quite often. But she's not one to go full barrel all day long and just go fast. She likes to putt. She loves wildlife. She loves to see the deer. She loves to see stuff and loves to watch the sunrise and sunset and that kind of stuff. Take in the nature rather than have it go by at 100 miles an hour. So
there's your interest in cars. We got that. How did you make your way to Maine? Another cold place with short summers, right?
So as I was working as a bartender, near my town is a big mall, a shopping mall. And the bar that I worked at had a hotel very, very close to it. And there was these guys, and this was when I was older. I mean, I'm kind of jumping forward a little bit, but from Michigan, I went to school. I went to college in Florida. I went to USF, studied architecture, and then I came back to help my mother because her business she was having some hard times. She had made some unfortunate mistakes, and I had to come back to Michigan to help my mom with a family restaurant. So as I was home, there was these two guys that were in the mall, and they sold those styrofoam. It's a company called Greenlight Marketing, and they sold those styrofoam gliders or those airplanes that you would see the guys back selling in the mall, and they'd stand in the middle of the mall with a kiosk, and they'd throw those planes, and they'd do the loop, and they'd catch them, and then they'd throw them back, and they'd do all that. And it's kind of like a carny thing, and you're selling stuff. And anyway, they would come into the bar every night after they would leave the mall, and I was their bartender, and we became friends. They said that I had the right type of personality, and I would do very well at that. So they offered me a job. They told me what kind of money I'd be making. I was shocked to hear
more than a bartender.
It was much more than a bartender.
Wow.
And I didn't really believe them. But at that point, I was in my probably early 20s, late 20s, probably early 20s, 24, 25. And I said, what the hell, let's go. So I took a job with them, and we traveled all over the Eastern United States. And we'd go into a mall, and we'd sell these styrofoam gliders. I started in Dover, Delaware in a mall there, was there for 2 months. From there, we went down to the Raleigh, North Carolina area, worked our way down to Daytona, and then worked our way back up the coast. And we did that for about 2 years, maybe. And we were in the Liberty Tree Mall
Danvers.
In Danvers, Mass.
Yeah.
And as we were in that mall, we talked to the mall manager, and he says, you guys should go and there's a mall up in Maine. It's called the Maine Mall. And he goes, we manage that mall as well. It's a very, very strong mall. It's really, really busy. You guys would do great there. And let's get you up there and do a Christmas gig. And a Christmas gig was 2 months. It was November, December type thing.
Yeah.
So I'd worked for the company for about 2 years at that point. We came to the Maine Mall. My boss went back to Ohio. I was at that point, moved my way up into more of a leadership role with the company. And I found a winter rental in Old Orchard Beach, Maine. Never heard of Old Orchard Beach, Maine, but I got this winter rental in Old Orchard Beach, Maine. And I set up a mall store. And as that Christmas season progressed, things with the company started to sour up a little bit. And I had met a guy that had a shop in Old Orchard Beach. And by Christmas time, he said, you know what, you might want to think about sticking around here for the summer. He goes, and I was thinking about leaving the company. And that's how I ended up in Maine. I met a girl in the mall and started, well, not Christine, unfortunately, but I met a girl in the mall and started dating her. And I said, you know what, I'm good with that. I'm going to stay around here and try the summer out in Maine. And that's how I ended up in Maine.
So where did you get into your first business? Or not where, but when and what was it? Going back, I've always done business type things. I've tried a ton of things. Yeah.
In a true entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, I've tried, I guess you could say the first business I ever did is I polished rocks and sold them on the side of the road at my house. Right. And I'd sell people that like lemonade stands, but I did polished rocks.
We have a bucket, those storage bins.
Yeah.
Somewhere in a basement in my house, in the basement of my house, with that kid in there.
Yeah.
It was my oldest son. That's so funny you said that.
I bought one of those for my grandson, Maxon, and he was.
They are cool.
That's very cool. He made a couple things for my wife. They're beautiful. So I guess you could say, maybe I started there. But my first real dabbling with the businesses had to be when I left Greenlight Marketing and I started my thing in Old Orchard Beach. That was my first real, I'm going to give this a shot. And I was 25 at the time, 26. I rented this little shack thing. It was like a 4x4 ice shack. It was small. I called it Jack in the Box, very original name. And I sold the same type of stuff I did in the mall, beach toys and novelties. And we had that game that with the Velcro pads that you would throw the ball and stick to the Velcro pad.
Yeah.
It was the very first season that those had kind of come out. So I just started selling them in Old Orchard. And then from there, I got into airbrushing T-shirts and a little bit of artistry stuff and did some airbrush T-shirts down there. And then in the winter times, I would just kind of try to do stuff, locally. I would work flea markets and indoor markets and things like that and try to sell my products. So that's I would say where I got my start trying to dabble with things. And different businesses. And I've tried a few different things. The Jack in the Box didn't end up working. So then I became friends with a guy that made shorts made out of flour sacks. They were the kind of a guy from Canada that I'd met in Old Orchard Beach, and they were those sold like crazy. I couldn't believe they're the ugliest things you've ever seen in your life, but they sold like crazy. So I changed the name of the shop to Sacks on the Beach, SACKS on the beach, and airbrushed your sign and sold sugar sack shorts for a season or two. I just
Making money.
Yeah, I made good money. I did well, but it was very seasonal. Old Orchard Beach is you start the end of June, you start to really do any business. Then you work hard until the third week of August, and it's done. Yeah. And you're working 80, 90 hours a week, but only for 6 weeks.
All right, hold that thought. We're going to take our first commercial break right here. Everybody, we'll be back in about 1 minute with Jack Bogard of Sanford Sound.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
Have you ever dreamt of being on the radio? Well, now is your chance. Be a radio show guest on the #1 ranked internet radio station and promote you and your business for free. Yes, you heard it, free. Business advertising right here on W4CY.com. Call 561-506-4031 now to get booked on one of our shows. That's 561-506-4031. Get your free advertising now.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind, to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
All right, we're back with Jack Bogard of Sanford Sound. All right, so keep going. Flour sacks.
Yeah, so the
sacks
shorts
on the beach.
Flour sacks on the beach. So, like I said, I did that for a couple of summers. And what happened was it got to be really frustrating working hard in the summer and then barely getting through the winter. So I decided at that point that I was going to get a job, a real job. I was going to grow up. I finally was going to put my big boy shorts on and work for somebody else, right? And I got a job for a company called the Car Phone Store, which was a franchise that had just opened or was open in my hometown. And they're based out of the New England area. I'm sure you heard of them.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
And so I started working for them. I interviewed with them and got a job working with them. It was fall of 95. And that was going to be a full-time year-round job. So I started November of 95 at the Car Phone Store. And by February of the next year, so February of 96, I bought the franchise. And I fell in love with what I was doing. Yeah. At that point, they were doing car phones and remote car starters. That was a side thing they did. So I bought into the franchise. The two guys that owned this particular franchise were from New Hampshire. They didn't like doing business in Maine. Maine's very high taxed, and there's a lot of things here, and they just didn't like Maine. And I lived here, and so it was the normal progression. I'm like, well, so I bought the business in that February of that year, and I stayed with that. The Car Phone Store franchise transitioned into a company called the Wireless Zone, and they changed because car phones was very distinct. What do you sell? Well, I sell car phones. And we started getting into pagers and PDAs and all types of other types of wireless communication. So the franchise changed the name to Wireless Zone. And then I started doing more and more and more with the car stereo and the car audio, and I grew the business on that end.
Yeah, the financial model in that business changed, right? At first, it was like big money from activations and residuals, and that started to go away, right?
They took all the residuals away from us. And stuff like that. At that point, the girl that I had met and I were done. We were breaking up. And so that relationship was over. And I started doing more and more with the wireless or car stereos and remote starters and that kind of stuff. And the franchise, one of the things I started doing was I had, because of my divorce, I had made friends with these girls that worked in an exotic club. And they're like, hey, we should go to your store sometime and wash cars. And I'm like, cool, let's do it this Saturday. So I kind of started doing this bikini car wash thing.
Yeah.
And it was a big deal. And the franchise did not agree with that. And I can understand why. It didn't set well with them. Mm-hmm. So we started talking about, they started telling me I can't do it. And I decided at that point that I said, you know what, I had established myself enough. It was probably getting closer to 99 or 2000. And I just said, why don't I transition into just dropping the franchise and I will become Sanford Sound. So there's the birth of Sanford Sound. That was always the website that I had on the side, mm-hmm. With Wireless Zone. And I just kind of negotiated out of my contract with a franchise and bought into just full-time Sanford Sound, and continued growing my bikini car wash.
Yeah, you did it for many years.
I did the bikini car wash for 25 years.
Wow. Yeah.
23 years. I still do it got to the point where it was the last Sunday of July. And probably 7, 8 years ago, I dropped the bikini car wash part of it. And I did it as a show and shine. So,
I mean, if I recall the story, correct me if I'm wrong, it got so big. Right?
It's massive now. It's a huge event.
Yeah.
It's a festival now.
Mm-hmm.
And, having moving through an event like that, trying to do a car wash, number one, didn't work. The world changed. Times have changed. Having that kind of thing around is not as politically correct as it was mm-hmm. back in the day. And the show and shine, I started doing bikini car wash and show and shine. And now it's just no more bikini car wash, just show and shine. And that show has grown and grown and grown. Last year we had 200 registered cars.
Wow.
I had 15 or 16 vendors. I've gotten to the point where this festival is so big that people actually pay me to have vendor spaces at my show. I used to invite them and have them come for free just so I had things for people to do. And now I charge money for them to come because they do very well, because there's thousands of spectators that show up for that day. So
is this at your property or do you use space elsewhere?
No, it's right here at my property.
Yeah.
We've gotten ahead of ourselves a little bit, but my property now that I have is 2 acres. I bought this land in 20. It was at the end of 2020.
You built the building?
No, I bought a building that was here. It was
okay.
It was a stove and chimney shop. But before that, I was in a small little 2,000 square foot place I shared with Rent-A-Center. And it was right next door. It's literally 100 yards from where I am now. Mm-hmm. And there's a huge field in the middle. So back in the day when I started that car show, I haven't really moved. I've just done a lateral move literally 3 doors down. So we still use that same field in the middle. It's just now, instead of on the right of the field, I'm on the left of the field. And it's grown and grown to a point where it's huge. So, and
some, I don't know how much, but I know some of those proceeds you give away.
Yeah, every year. Well, the way it kind of started was the city started to have a hard time with the whole bikini car wash. So I turned it into a charity bikini car wash. Mm-hmm. And we would raise money for different funds. I had joined the fire department back in 96. And because I was involved with the fire department, I had a huge passion for the fire service. So the money usually went, like the first thing we raised money was for the city of Sanford's first thermal imaging camera.
Oh, wow.
So I made enough money to donate a thermal imaging camera to the city of Sanford.
Wow.
Because budget didn't allow for them to get one. And then every year I would pick a different charity to give the money to. We have another charity here in town called Graham-tastic, which raises money for kids that are terminally ill. They can't get out of a hospital bed or something, and it would give them laptops and computers so that they could communicate with the outside world.
That's cool.
And every year I picked a different charity, and that worked to my favor for the longest time, because nobody really shut me down because it was a charity thing. So.
But there were traffic, had to be traffic to deal with, right? There had to be crowds.
Yeah.
The local businesses probably liked it. Some of them,
restaurants,
and bars.
At the point now, this show has grown to the point where it's so big now that the hotels get busy. People drive from,
wow.
I have cars that trailer up here from New York. A friend of mine, Ada from Baltimore, has talked about coming up for the show in the summertime. So, it's gotten to the point now where it's got national recognition, partially because of my involvement with MEA, winning 12-Vote Retailer of the Year for 4 years now in a row. Or not,
Congratulations.
Not Retailer of the Year, but top 12. I should rephrase that. Just gotten me some national attention. I became friends with a guy named Michael Van Horn many, many years ago. I met in Las Vegas at the Consumer Electronics Show. And he promotes my shop and what I do regularly. And, he used to have a newspaper, a rag magazine that he put out for the industry. And he still does his, podcasts and different things digitally, and he talks about everybody in the industry. So that gets a lot of recognition for me here in little Sanford, Maine. So
how big a town is Sanford?
It's 22,000 people it's not big. It's not big at all. I'm fortunate that I've done this for 30 years now. And I think partially, I'm in the store a lot. I'm not here every day because, I did have my fire department responsibilities. But people love to come and see me, and they love that low. And I've taken it and changed. We don't just do cars anymore.
Yeah.
I do commercial sound in restaurants.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I do a lot of that. I've gotten my name involved with all the restaurants in the Seacoast and the Gunkwit and Kennebunk and Kennebunk Port and Wells. And once you do one or two of those restaurants, all those restaurants know each other. And they all talk, hey, where'd you get your stereo? Or where'd you get this? And so I do, I just did a sports bar with 22 TVs and sound. And I do some houses. I do guys' man caves. I do some really big stuff. I did the park here in town, the Goodall Park. Goodall Park is where they play the baseball league. It's New England Collegiate Baseball League plays there. I did all the PA and the sound in that whole stadium. The brand new high school that just got built, they hired me to do all the sound in the football field.
Wow.
So that's what's given me, there's only 22,000 people for me to draw from. So how do you stay in business and grow for 30 years? You have to draw from other areas, because I saturated the market essentially.
Well, I'm going to say two things, because I'm always talking about mindsets and, in my business. So first of all, you didn't look at that $22,000 population and say, wow, there's not much here. No, your entrepreneurial, brain saw opportunity, not restriction. Yeah. It's like the old story that you've probably heard. I've heard it a million times, but they send this guy to like the plains of Africa to sell shoes, and he fails miserably and he calls the home office. They bring him home, and he said he failed because no one wore shoes. So they sent another guy. The other guy kept calling for more shoes and more shoes and more shoes. And they said, what are you doing differently? He said, I don't know. Nobody wears shoes. It's an awesome market, Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing. I'm always thinking of things.
Yeah.
There's always a side thing that comes to my mind of, I could do this. And I watch other businesses and other people do stuff. And I'm like, well, I could do that. And I've changed the business. LED lighting became a thing, and you either got behind it or you didn't. And I got behind it. We do a ton with lighting, boats. This is a huge boating area, so I mastered my craft on putting radios in boats and went to the marinas in this area, and touched base with all the marinas and the lobstermen and the fishermen, and everybody likes music. We all like music. It's relaxing. It's what people enjoy. So you can put music anywhere. I do stuff at camps on the lakes. They're side-by-sides, and I've even put system on the snowmobiles. So it's really cool. You just got to always be thinking of those type of things.
Yeah, Titan Motoring, when we visited them at one of the MEA shows in Nashville, there was this big John Deere tractor on their yard because they're putting some kind of system in it for the guy that's driving around, cutting down all the weed, or not weed, it would be corn or something, whatever they harvest down there. But so funny. But
being that entrepreneur, that kind of guy that's always thinking, Sanford sound and the audio and the sound has been the go-to from the beginning. But I've gone off on some tangents over the years, and you may or may not have going to touch on some of these, but when I did my bikini car wash for the years, I was utilizing girls from a strip club, I guess, for lack of better terms. I quickly realized that those girls are extremely unreliable, and they don't show up in time. They've been up all night long. So I transitioned that into using more like model type girls. And then I started thinking about it, and I said, well, why don't I just do that myself? I mean, I could run something like that. So I started a company called Team Elite, and I had 25 girls that worked with me, and I got contracts with NHRA at Epping Dragway. I got contracts with NASCAR because I'm a huge NASCAR fan. I go to the stock races all the time, so I knew people there. And I was friends with a guy from New England Fights, and I built that side of the business to, I would, if you go to the races and there's always a pretty girl that wants you to sign up for this credit card, you're going to get a free t-shirt, or you're going to get a free cushion to sit on in the racetrack and stuff. But we just want your credit card. We want your social security number and stuff, and sign this form. And it's very, very hard to say no to a pretty girl. Well, that was me. I did that for a long time. I would contract these girls to do that. The ring card girls at fights, at MMA fights and boxing matches and things. So I was doing that on the side as I was running the audio business, and doing the firefighting thing on 24 on, 24 off, 24 on, 4 day off type thing.
Yeah.
And I squeezed, and my family, all kind of always at once. And I built that company up. My wife, extremely tolerant woman, for putting up with that for years.
For sure.
But I never realized, like, nightclubs would pay me a percentage of the door.
Yeah, I didn't know this happened when you told me this the first time. Go ahead.
Yeah, the nightclub would pay me a percentage of the door to bring a bunch of girls to the club. I felt like a pimp, but I'm really not a pimp. But there was no sex involved. But they would pay me to bring these girls to the bar, and they would have to have fun. All they had to do was have fun. And if there's pretty girls in the bar, the guys come. And so they paid me to bring those girls to the club. I bought a limousine, and that was my transport. I lettered it all up with Team Elite models and blah, blah, blah. And we'd pull into the nightclub in front, and I would open that door, and 15 pretty girls would get out. And it was like, oh my God, what's going on?
Wow.
Go in, they'd give us a VIP table, and they would have a great time all night long. And all right. I opened the door.
Pause right there. We're going to take our second break. We'll be back in about a minute with Jack Bogard.
Thank you.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
The YP.com website is your local search engine. If you're looking for a good restaurant, it can help you find the right one nearby with ratings and reviews. Or if your car breaks down, you can use the YP app to find the closest repair shop. Or maybe you're just looking for something to do on a Friday night. Well, it has great local coupons for all sorts of things in your area. No matter what, when, or where, if you're looking for something, YP Local Search can help you find it. So go to YP.com or download the app to to search local, find local, and save local.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind, to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
We're back with entrepreneur and business owner Jack Bogard of Sanford Sound, Sanford, Maine. What are some of the other tangents you've found along the way?
Like in reference to businesses and things.
Yeah. I mean, there was definitely a tie to back to. Well, we're talking about lighting and sound and audio and you've seen these opportunities that others haven't.
All these other little side businesses, all come back to my heart and my passion. Is car audio and stereo.
Right, so that was the tie-in. I lost it for 2 seconds. It's cars, right? It comes back.
Yeah, it's always been cars.
Yeah.
And I go off on these tangents and do these other things, but I always come back home, right? And I always come back to the car. I grew up around cars. I told you earlier, I grew up around boats, and I really love what I do. And I can remember my mother when I was a kid telling me, because like I said earlier, I went to school to be an architect. And I just didn't like it. It wasn't me. And my mother said, make sure you get something that you enjoy and do what you like, because you're going to do it for the rest of your life. So it won't be like you're going to work every day if you go to work and do something that you enjoy. And I can honestly say that there are not days here that are tough, but I love what I do and I enjoy it. It's awesome. I work on beautiful cars. I work on beautiful boats
with nice people.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And at this point now, I'm 60 now. Well, 59, I'm going to be 60 in a couple of months. All those little side things that I did for a while was me throwing out different things, trying to figure out what's going to work. And I always come back to this. And this is my passion. This is what I love to do. And like I promised my mom, I don't go to work. I do what I love every single day. So
yeah, it doesn't mean it's not difficult at times. Like, for example, it's good news and bad news. I mean, you grossed $1 million for the first time in 2024. That's fantastic. First of all, what do you attribute that to?
The biggest thing I think I attribute it to is, I bought a building that's 8,000 square feet. So I got much larger. I was in a small 2,000 square foot shop, and I put my retirement papers in for the fire department in January of 20, and I made an offer on this building in January of 20. My retirement, I was going to be done on April 1st because Joker. So I said April 1st, April Fool's Day, my last day. I put an offer on this building, and then COVID hit. March 20th or March 17th. And the world stopped as we know it. So buying this building took a long time. I didn't actually close on this building till the end of December of 20.
Yeah, everybody just stopped for a number of months.
The banks weren't loaning money. Yeah. People in hospitality restaurants were closing, hotels were closing. It was a very unstable times. But so I bought this building in 20, and then every year my business got better. Now we all know in our industry, the outside world may not realize that, but for us, people that are in the electronics industry or anything like that, 21, 22, 23 were the best years anybody could ever have had. People were getting free money. They didn't have anything to do at home. They were buying toys. They were putting zeros in those toys. And we all had extremely strong years. So that helped. But my sales have gotten better every single year. And I closed 24 with my first year that I grossed over $1 million. And with 3 to 4 guys, we hustled. It's a big accomplishment. That's double what I was doing at my other location in 4 years.
So the success now is kind of the bad news a little bit, because you need staff now.
Yeah. And
so you're actually hiring, you need a sales associate, and you're looking for an installation technician.
Yeah. So I'm at that point now where staffing is, It's hard to get the right staffing. Work ethic in our country has changed drastically. The amount, this is blue collar work. This is a trade job. The install side of it.
Right.
And, so I'm in that middle of trying to recruit and find the right salesperson. I have one great guy that works here. He does awesome, but we're busy. We need more. And then installations, and trying to find the right technician and the right guy. You're not just working on anything. You're working on people's cars. We're working on Mercedes and some Porsche, and we get high-end vehicles, and even the ones that aren't high-end, to the guy,
somebody's baby.
Yeah, it's somebody's car, man.
Yep.
I don't care if the guy's driving a Ford Escort or he's driving a Dodge Ram truck or what he's driving. That's his Ferrari. And you can't just let anybody work on that car. Multitude of things can happen. They can break it. They can cost me a ton of money to repair what they've damaged. Or they just don't know what they're doing. And so I need a skilled tech.
And there's a lot of, in some cases, right? I know, this for the audience's sake, there's a lot of skilled craftsmanship that goes into that, right? You don't just take a speaker out and put a new one in. There are all kinds of
be a fabricator.
Fabrication, right.
You need to be an installer,
troubleshooter, problem solver.
You need to know how to take a car apart properly without breaking it. You then have to look outside of the box and figure out where in that vehicle can I find to mount an amplifier. Where can I build a subwoofer enclosure? Because the subwoofers all need a certain amount of airspace.
Let me just quick pause for a second.
Yeah.
If any listeners or viewers, if you haven't checked it out, go to sanfordsound.com and look at the gallery, and you'll see what he's talking about. Go ahead.
We do fiberglassing. I'm in a market in Maine where it's a little different than some of these guys like Ada in Baltimore and my friend Jason in Columbus and some of these other guys and some of these, Jason Krantz in Vegas. These guys have different vehicles than we have here, but it's still the same thing. You still have to figure out how to put stuff in these cars and do it right. And now today you got to know software. You got to know how to program. You got to know how to do things. We're using 3D printers. We're using CNC machines. And your average high school kid doesn't know how to program a CNC machine or a 3D printer to make a bracket to mount a tweeter to fit it in the dash of a 25 Ram. So it's hard to find the right person to expand the business the right way.
But for the right person, you offer tremendous opportunity. They're going to love what they're doing, they're working with their hands, they're making things, they're building things, and they can probably do what they love, right?
Oh my God, yeah.
If they're a sound person, a car person, it's perfect for them.
You talk to any one of my employees, talk to any of the people that I've had work here in the past that have left.
Yeah.
As my wife says, they all come home. Every single person that's ever worked here still comes in here and visits me on a regular basis.
Wow.
And talks about how this was the best job they've ever had in their life.
Wow.
The hardest part about this job that is referenced to it, in that would be the retaining good help. You don't retire from here. It's not like you're working for the Navy or the shipyard or Pratt and Whitney. And I have a huge pension plan and a huge medical benefits. And I offer 401k. I offer very competitive wages. I treat them. There's a lot of little perks and things that I do for the guys. But there's some of these guys that are starting out a young family, they need medical insurance and they need more. So that's the hardest part about a small business is being able to compete with that side of what people are looking for. So, I get a guy, they last 4 or 5 years, 6 years. I had one guy who was 10. And then they traditionally move on, but they all say it was the best time of their life. So,
And then the sales role, right? You need somebody to help you and Tim, right?
Yeah, I need somebody for Tim and I upstairs. I'm at that point now where I want to work on the business and not in the business. And I don't know if everybody understands that statement, but there's two different sides. I don't want to have to be an active salesperson in the business.
Right.
I want to work on getting new people in here, new business, new ideas, things like that. And when I'm short staffed with a store that's a 4,000 square foot showroom, I could at any time have 20 people on my sales floor. There's enough parking that it's crazy. So it's a lot for one guy. Tim does absolutely amazing in the sales field. But there's nothing, you can only stack people so deep. And I need a qualified salesperson to help with that. And finding the right person is, in this industry, you have to be a salesperson. I'm not looking for a clerk. I'm not looking for somebody like at Walmart that just rings in the barcode.
Right, like we say, an order taker, not an order taker.
I don't need an order. I mean, people come in here because they want to know. If all I needed was a clerk, I could be an Amazon or a Walmart. People come in here and they want you to know. They come here, how's this dash camera work? And what does this mean? And so you have to know everything about every product that's in this store. And you also have to know how to design a car audio system using the right components for a car, and do it knowledgeably. And so it takes a special person to do it. We train, we do our best. If I have the right person that fits that mold of what we're looking for, a fun, energetic, outgoing, well-groomed, manured kid or man or woman, I can train anybody as long as they can retain what we teach them.
Yep. Again, if it's somebody that loves audio, they'll get it.
Right. Or cars.
Cars. Yes, and cars.
Or boats or motorcycles. Everybody loves, those are toys, right? I always say I'm in the toys for toys business.
Yeah.
So, I'm putting toys in people's toys, and it's great. It's, but you got to do it knowledgeably, because they're going to go to the next shop. They're going to walk, they're going to go somewhere, or they're going to do their own research and they're going to buy it on Amazon. And then they're going to come here with a box and say, you help me put this in. So, and
you say, nope.
No. So,
yeah, that's what I teach. Nope.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a couple of closing questions. This went fast, for me anyway.
Yeah, really fast.
So who in the listening and viewing audiences should reach out to you and why? So certainly those in the, Sanford, Maine area, but those outside may want to pick your brain. Why would they want to call or get a hold of you?
Because they're tired of their boring, redundant job that they're doing now.
Nice.
We never do the same thing day in and day out. So it's fast paced, but if you're looking for a change, you're looking to do something that every single day you're not making a part, or you're not doing the same thing over and over and over, and you like that change, you can multitask, and you want to learn a new field, come and see me. Anybody, we pay competitive wages. So, and for the right person, maybe even help you with some of your fuel costs to get you here. So it's not just Sanford. If you live in southern Maine, you live in southern New Hampshire, even I'm 20 minutes from Massachusetts border. So, come and see us, come and talk to us, give us a call, or just stop in the store sometime and just walk around. The store's open to the public. It's like the world's largest man cave. Come walk around and check out the store, and you'll see why you would want to be here. It's a lot of fun. It's almost like you're going to an amusement park when you walk in here. There's so many things to do. Tim, Saturday afternoon, Tim was riding an electric bike around the store. That's his job. Yeah, he's demoing an electric bike, and he's riding a bike at work. Who can say they do that at work? So not many people.
Because you can't get the planes anymore, the gliders, right?
No, I still have a lot of them left, and I break out all that stuff at Christmas time.
That's
and
funny.
I stocking stuffers, and I can still fly a pretty mean plane. So,
well, you'll have to teach me. Well, listen, thank you so much for being here. Best way for people to get in touch with Jack is right there in the crawl. It's sanfordsound.com or jackb@sanfordsound.com. The phone number's there as well. It's 207-490-4900. Jack, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it very much. And like you said, the time went really fast.
Yeah, It does. Good conversation. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you very much.
And thanks everybody for listening and watching. This is a show about business, sometimes business challenges, certainly business growth. If you've got concerns about the sales effectiveness of your company, whether your sales team is you or very small or it's very large, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook or LinkedIn at Winning Business Radio, or you can drop me a note. One of my many email addresses, I always say, kevin@winningbusinessradio.com. Our company is Winning Incorporated. We're part of Sandler Training. We develop sales teams into high achievers and sales leaders into true coaches and mentors. Hey, we're not right for everybody, but maybe we should have a conversation. Thank you to producer and engineer Juan. Thank you, Juan, for another job well done. Be sure, everybody, to join us next week, Monday, March 10th. We'll do it all again. Until then, this is Kevin Hallinan.
You've been listening to Winning Business Radio with your host, Kevin Hallinan. If you missed any part of this episode, the podcast is available on Talk4 Podcasting and iHeartRadio. For more information and questions, go to winningbusinessradio.com or check us out on social media. Tune in again next week and every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time to listen live to Winning Business Radio on W4CY Radio, W4CY.com. Until then, let's succeed where others have failed and win in business with Kevin Hallinan and Winning Business Radio.